We are starting recording. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We are again about to start this chapter, which we covered half, and it was about power and influence, and we were trying to understand the role of the leader. So we discussed like how leader can have different kinds of powers, and this diagram over here tells us about like a leader can have an expert power, it can have a referent power, can have a reward and coercive kind of influence that it can create with the followers and the situation. So basically there were three important ingredients. This the leader and the followers and the situation. So sometimes the situation helps a leader to become a leader, sometimes the followers they help leaders to become a leader, or sometimes the leader uses the situation or the followers to gain the power and become a leader.
Referent, doctor, here means what?
Sorry,
and
come
why
again?
it is linked to referent here? What does referent here mean, and why it is linked to the followers?
A referent is a link between a leader and follower. Okay, so it's explained in the further slides. We can discuss it. But this was just to understand like what kind of relationship is it, because it's been like quite a while, and this picture is very important for us to have in our minds when we're talking about leadership. So basically, meant three dimensions, which is leader, followers, and situation. Okay, let's see what does expert means. The leader must has to be expert. Power is the power of the knowledge. So a leader should be having the knowledge. So that's why we see like most of the top positions in the companies, the CEOs are from the engineering background. So probably one of the reasons is that they have the background of the engineering, so they can, or they are considered as more suitable to understand the dynamics that are playing a role in the companies. Some people are able to influence others through their relative expertise in the particular area, and knowledge is something that people gain over the period of time, and then they use it in their favor. So expert leaders must have to have knowledge. If different followers have considerably greater amount of expert power, it will be difficult for a leader to influence the work units on the basis of expert power alone. So, and this is many times you will see it practically at work when there's a followers probably who are more senior and more knowledgeable. Then knowledge alone is not going to help them to exercise the power to make
because the followers has the same.
They might have more power, the knowledge than you.
More knowledge power.
Yeah, because like we have experienced, like in one company where I went to give a training, and they employed a leader from outside, and there was the deputy managing director. The managing director was imported from somewhere out, and the deputy managing director was someone with like 15-20 years of work experience. So everybody was kind of respecting him, and they were not owning the person from the house. So obviously he had more knowledge of the affairs of the people, and people were giving him more respect. So if we come back to this diagram, that deputy managing director was having more expert power and also referent power interacting with the employees. So that can be a huge danger for the leader. That's what we are talking about, that knowledge. If a leader is solely relying on the knowledge that I know more than you, and if people are looking at him to get knowledge and expert opinion, so in the case if they have more knowledgeable people, then the source of power is not there for the leaders. But having said this, if we take the example of Jack Ma, so Jack Ma, who is the president of Alibaba, he says, I'm not the most intelligent person in the company. What I do is I hire more intelligent people than me. So he is kind of using the powers of the followers. So this can also be a very good way to see like how you can use the power of the knowledge from your subordinate and don't feel threatened. Again, if we link it with the Indra Nuvi, who is the CEO of, you know, Abdulaziz is struggling. Can you please somebody help him because he's calling me? So Indra Nuvi, when she was talking about that at PepsiCo, she make PepsiCo Academy where they have got like 14. They have developed CEOs which are now serving in 14 different companies in multinational in America. She says it is threatening. The CEO can feel like threatened if he is developing others. So basically, he or she is risking his own position in the company. So that's the power game. That's what we are talking about. Okay, now coming to your question, referent power. Referent power refers to the potential influence on one has due to the strength of the relationship between leader and the follower. So I gave you the example of the company in which I was. It was basically a bank in which the managing director was from outside and the deputy managing director was from the inside, and he
I mean,
was.
referent, the relationship, the past relationship.
It is the relationship between the leader and his followers. So referent power often takes time to develop. So as we are talking about this particular case study, that this is the how much people are willing to follow his instructions by heart. It's like how much they're owning him. So probably someone who is like in a company, like we take the example of Aramco, and if some of your manager is like from Saudi background and you can connect with him, so he will have more power. It's not just the power of the seat, but how much people own him. Okay, so followers were relatively more referent power than their peers, are often the spokesperson for their work units and generally have more latitude to deviate from the work unit norm. So sometimes when you do not enjoy this power, then people will not kind of listen to you, probably not follow your instructions. So a leader must have to have a strong referent power with their followers. Then there's obviously in every position there comes a legitimate power with the leader. The legitimate power depends on a person's organizational role. So if there's a manager, he has certain autonomy, certain power. So individuals with legitimate power exert influence through request or demands deemed appropriate by virtue of their role and position. So if you see the hierarchy chart, there is a senior manager who is to whom you are directly reporting to. So he has many powers within the law that he can demand, he can request, and that one has to follow. If they don't follow, so that goes very negative. So similarly, if someone does not come into that hierarchy, so his request and demands are not that valuable. So those are not legitimate powers. So but one has to exercise these legitimate powers in a very conscious, like yes, the other day I was just reading that in Japan there was a manager that asked his employees to come 5 minutes early at workplace, and after a year the employees filed a suit against the company. So what happened is the judge has given a decree against the company, so the company had to pay millions of dollars in form of compensation towards that was treated as overtime of 5 minutes. So employees were paid millions of dollars from the company's pocket because the manager asked them to come 5 minutes early at work. So one has to understand the legal dimensions of the power. So the other day I was
Should
talking.
not use it in the wrong direction.
Yeah, you should understand your limitations. So the leaders, when they're using their powers and when they're not properly using the power, they can be dangerous. One of my students, he told me in my management class that his cousin was asked by the manager to do something which was not his role. So actually there were a couple of people, they did that, and that physically injured them, and that when they talked about the manager refused that I asked them to do this. So ultimately he says one of his cousin is a lawyer, so they filed a suit against him, and the company was penalized for I don't know, like in lakh, like 2 or 3 lakh real of penalty. So that suggests us like the managers, even though they have some legitimate power, but they should understand their limitations and they should not try to misuse those powers. And when I was talking to one of my students about the management, I said, if your workers are not coming, he says, I will right away give him terminations and things like that. Well, this is your power, but you'll not use it on the first incident. You go and use it in a proper manner. Otherwise, this can go against you. So holding a position and being a leader are not synonymous, equivalent. So that's what we are talking about. The managers and the leader, there's a difference. Effective leaders often intuitively realize that they need more than legitimate power to be successful. Yes, because legitimate powers are limited. You cannot terminate every second person who is not turning on time, who is a bit late in his performance. So they're like that the extreme level power. So we don't use it. So most of the time we use as a respect, we use as a care, we become empathetic to the other employees. We feel like them as humans, and if most of the time we can get it through respect and care. So a reward is another perspective. So reward power involves the potential to influence others due to one's control over desired resources. So especially the managers who enjoy good repute with the top management, who can make the rewards in favor of his employees, their subordinates follow their instructions or even suggestions more seriously as compared with the managers who does not have the reward and the power within their hands. So this is like how people are motivated when they feel like they can be rewarded for their efforts they are making. So many corporations use rewards extensively to motivate employees. The potential to influence others through the ability to administer reward is a joint function of the leader, the followers, and the situation. So it depends, like what kind of rewards are available. Do they require monetary reward? Do they require, empowerment? Do they require recognition? And there can be different rewards, which we can talk about in some psychological human being rewards and incentives chapter. But here it is very important for the realtors to have the ability to reward its subordinates. If subordinates are not properly rewarded, then they might not be able to be working for that. Not all the followers will be working for him, even though he'll be having a referent power. So an overwhelming overemphasis on rewards as payoff for performance can lead to resentment, dissatisfaction, and feelings by the workers of being manipulated, controlled, or influenced a person or situation cleverly, unfairly. So the thing is, like, if some managers, they all the time they're just talking about the reward. If you do this, I will give this. If you do this, so that is like the employees feel like they're being manipulated and exploited. So that's why, like, most of my father and me myself, I try to go and take something for my children's, but sometimes I don't prefer to go all the time with some incentives for candies all the time, because the children are always looking for the candies and they are less concerned and get happy of you coming back to home. So At the same time, at the workplace, you can see this, like if so like many of my colleagues, they used to create fear, and they say, if somebody will not do this, I will do this, I will deduct their marks, I'll make him absent, things like that. So sometimes when you overuse some punishment or overuse the power, they lose their value. So extrinsic rewards may not have the same effect on behavior as intrinsic reward. And sometimes, like when you give them monetary or some rewards which are from outside, as compared to the intrinsic reward, the things that motivate a human being from their internal satisfaction, they do have a different kind of effect on the employee's performance. So there has to be a mechanism in which the leader should be able to deal with both extrinsic and intrinsic rewards. So if somebody is not motivated from internally, they are not feeling satisfied. So how much money you can give them to buy and give them satisfaction. So there's a money that is has a limit. So caution about reward power. So leadership practitioners can enhance their ability to influence others based on rewards power if they determine what rewards are available. So what are the resources of the company? What are the rewards they can give? And the most important thing is that develop realistic expectations among the followers. Sometimes followers they put like 10% of the effort and they are expecting 40% or 50% of the like outcome and the reward. So sometimes when you develop high expectations for reward and that are not met, still they become dissatisfied. Also determine what rewards are valued by the subordinates. So sometimes it is not just the money, sometimes it's the value, it's like sometimes small gestures, you know. Yesterday I was in a concluding ceremony of a hackathon here. It happened yesterday. So what happened was in the concluding ceremony we were there as a mentor, and all the mentors were requested to come on the stage to get the a picture with the president of King Faisal University. So honorable president, because there were like 15-20 people. So the president was so noble, gentleman. He saw that the people are like going outside the picture, so he requested us, can you please come here and get another picture? So he took it like twice, and it makes us feel very good about him. Like he is considering these, like these people were not coming in the picture. So a small gesture can make a huge impact on the people, and they feel like this is a person who is very considerate about other human beings, you know. So another establish clear policies for the equitable and consistent administration of the rewards for the good performance. So that is something very important. Like it should be people should be able to see what are the parameters on which these rewards are given, so that we can motivate other employees to be working on those parameters. It should not be based on personal liking and disliking. Sometimes the leaders, they make people feel like it is in his hands, and when he can reward anyone, and when he is not feeling good about it, he can punish anyone. So so the people are just trying to make the leader happy all the time, so they do not understand what is the criteria. So if you want to establish a right criteria for the rewards, then the people will try to go for those criteria instead of making you and the leader happy or unhappy. So if followers have control over scarce resources, then they may use the administration of these resources as a way of getting leaders to act in the manner they want. So this can work the other way around. So if the followers, they know like which are the crucial aspects, especially most of the time it's like the information and the runtime information about certain products and features. So if they've got those resources, and they can just play around with uh, the leader.
Dr. if you can elaborate the last point.
Yeah, it's like when they understand they're like the leader is very much concerned about particular thing, which I noticed here as well in my other university. Like they were like, any occasion we used to give the rewards to the accounts department. We used to give the reward to the particular department which don't have to do nothing with, to be honest, any event, you know. So but we know those departments are very crucial, and the management and the top management wants them to be happy. So if those departments are not happy, they can make your event, or things can go the other way around. Okay, so I've noticed like many like people, they give the sheets and things away just to make those people happy. So that's why if the followers understand that there are like some scarce resources, and the leader needs this information badly so they can play around, and they must be getting rewarded all the time. I myself was in the accounts as a regional accountant, so I understand like all the time the management looks toward the accounts, and sometimes the accounts people, they hide uh, the important, you know, investments. So we call it window dressing. So they can put some accruals, and they say like uh, because in the October we might have an incur 50,000 real for the gas or petroleum expenditure. So they just put it right now. So and when you see the statement, it won't appear over there. So they can like play around with the managers, and the managers then they realize their importance, and they just give them in reward system all the time. That's what I have noticed, to be honest. Coercive powers is the potential to influence others to the administration of negative sanctions or the removal of positive events. So it's coercive power can be used appropriately or inappropriately, and this is how it should be.
Example.
Like when you terminate someone, when you offer, you give them warnings, you know. And again, we are just talking about that coercive power should be from some mechanism, and not for like the big boss is happy today and he is, or he is unhappy because you are late. So it has to have a mechanism. So all the leaders who solely rely on the coercive power has inherent limitations and drawbacks. So people get scared of them. They just all the time they're just thinking to leave the company. They are not motivated. And then, as I told you, there's a limit. You cannot just terminate all the employees. So basically, when you reward someone, like out of 100, you reward 2 people, 3 people, or out of 100, you use coercive power on 2 and 3 people. So objective is to set the standards of the work. It's not like I don't like this, so I will do coercive power, or I like this. It's like this is good for the company. This is the right behavior. That's we want. We want to have this kind of behavior, so we give the reward on those behaviors which are good for the company, and the behaviors which are not good for the company, we use coercive powers. But it's one of the most common forms of coercive is simply a superior's temperamental outburst. So sometimes, and that's what I was talking to the students today, that as we grow over the period of time, you'll see that your managers, they are outbursts, they're like raising their voice on the juniors. This is not they are angry, but this is how they do the acting. So we as teachers, we have also learned over the period of time. And sometimes you will see some teacher is like using a bit higher voice, top of his voice. So basically, it's like just to control and to exercise the power. So that's one learn over the period of time. So it is possible for followers to use coercive power to influence the leader's behavior. So it can go vice versa. The followers can also use the coercive powers, like they can do lobbying, like they can, or if the leader doesn't use proper or use misuse of power, so they have the control and they can just go legally against the leader. And this can be like the leader become more careful in the next time, so he should not be using those powers improperly. So for generalization about power and influence, first is effective leaders typically take advantage of all these sources of power. So all the sources of power were we discussed. They were using reward power, they were using referent power, they were using coercive power, they were using legitimate power. Okay, so leaders will be using all these powers. As we discussed, like if somebody is just using knowledge power and they are not having lack in other kinds of powers, if they are not having referent powers, so probably they are very shallow kind of leaders. Another thing is, whereas leaders in the well-functioning organization have strong influence over their subordinates, they are also open to being influenced by them. So it's a vice versa. It depends like how much followers have the powers. Sometimes like these Microsoft, Alibaba and all this, they empower their employees and they get influenced by them, they learn by them, and this is one of the ways that they are also learning and developing. But the problem is that leaders vary in the extent to which they share power with subordinates, and obviously it's between situation to situation. It's like how much the power is already enjoyed by the subordinates. So a leader might be working in one company in which he was sole enjoying the powers, but he moves to another company in which the power is shared by the followers and the kind of other powers he might not be having as he used to have in other companies. Effective leaders generally work to increase their various powers base. You want to ask some question? Anyone wants to say something? Okay. So effective leaders generally work to increase their various powers basis on or becomes more willing to use their coercive powers. So it depends like situation to situation how effectively leaders use their power. So I believe like if the leaders are not well aware about their powers and if they don't use the powers, so there might be a problem in which their followers will exploit him and they might be starting using the powers. Okay, so French and Raven have given 5 forms of power. They have expanded it. They have expanded coercive power, legitimate power, reward power, referent power, and expert power with information power and connection power. So I think this is must be very much relevant in our today's era. So if a leader is well informed, he has up-to-date information about the external environment, and then how much he has connection outside the organization, that also plays a very important role. So how much business he can attract for the company, how much sponsorship he can earn for the company, how much fundings he can generate, how much. So especially PR and public relationship. This we talk about British entrepreneur versus Sir, who is the owner of the Virgin Airline. I just skipped his name out of my head. Sir Richard Branson. So he himself, sometimes he jumps out from the airplane, sometimes he goes around the world, sometimes he goes into the scuba diving and things like that. So he himself is marketing. So most of the time he himself is in the most of the news. So the connections are also very important for the leaders, and that's how they are like always demanded. Okay, so what are the 7 ways to leverage your power? So first one is connections.
cannot see anything, Doctor. I cannot
You can't
see
see
anything. Still download.
the slide is موجود.
It's okay for me. I can see the slide.
Also
It's
me, I
clear.
can see it.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so this is something wrong with the slides. Okay, so please refresh this. So basically, there are 7 ways to leverage your power. One is the connection, as we were talking about. This is based on the leader's connection to powerful people, and this is very true and a great dimension. And sometimes we implant in certain companies, they implant some leader solely because of his connection outside the world. So he might not have much of understanding about this. The company, he might not have much about knowledge and things. He might not be very expert, but he is well connected. And we have seen like many a time, one connected people have been implanted. They like because of their connections, they have been implanted in some company on top positions. So that's a true thing. Coercive, we have already talked about. They're based on the fear. Reward, we already talked about, like how the leaders use these rewards, referent, legitimate powers, information, and expert. Okay, so this has already been discussed.
Doctor, if you allow, can we take 5 minutes just to المغرب for having المغرب prayer?
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to stop here?
Just for 5 minutes or 10 minutes to.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. I can also do the. Sure.